Okay, we're going to be doing the hook assembly over here. It's an assembly drawing, and they've asked us a few little things. I'm going to just highlight the really good parts. I'm going to be starting with the right view, which they've asked us to draw, and they've asked us to do hidden detail for this hook and the pins. All right, so just keep that in mind when we are finishing this thing up. It says show the section line for this sectional front view as well on that right view. Right, okay, very important. My right view, my front view, okay? I'm going to start out and I'm going to draw this hook over here. And to start, I always like to draw in a center line. Note that center line I draw in there, and straight away I come across here and I'm going to draw a center line coming across because I know that I've got a center line in my front view, and I'll get my marks for doing that. Right, you'll see over here that I've already started, and I drew in this little circle, just a construction line circle with that 12mm radius over there, and I've drawn the arc coming around here with a 34mm radius, just construction line circles going at the moment. Right, my next thing is to start looking at doing the center lines for this story over here. I need to measure 37mm out there, so I'm going to come over here and measure 37mm. 37mm, let's just mark that out. So there we go, 37mm going over there, and I'm going to draw a construction line going up. Let's just draw that construction line going up over there, and it then says that I need to measure up 17mm, 17mm, where was it? Sorry, 17mm going up to that center over there, so I can now measure off 17mm as fast as I can. Bang that in there with a pair of dividers, and I can draw in those center lines straight away. Right, let's just stick that down and get that out the way. Right, let's do this. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash. Okay, and come over here. Long dash, short dash, long dash over there. And it says that I need to have a 6mm radius going in over there. So I'm going to take a pair of compasses and just draw in a 6mm radius. That is fast as I can. That's my 6mm, and I'm going to just draw in that 6mm radius over here. Just a nice little friendly construction line arc going around there. Right, okay, now we start looking at all these arcs that are going to link these things up. And I'm going to start out and I'm going to say, all right, I need this 14mm radius to link the 6mm and the 34mm over here. Both of those is what they call an excluding arc, all right? So when I'm excluding, I add the two radiuses together. Now the really quick and easy way of doing this is, I know it's a 14mm radius. I'm going to draw in a construction line coming from the center of this, and I'm going to draw in a construction line from the center of this as well. And I'm going to then say, set my pair of compasses to 14. Set my pair of compasses to 14. All right. And I know that I'm going to be adding the 14 onto the original radius. Okay, so you can see there, I'm going to then place my pair of compasses and extend that out and draw a little arc. Right? I then say, all right, set that back to the 14. Note, there's the 14mm radius. Get that nice and accurate. Take it over here. There's from the center to there. Add 14 onto that. Take your pair of compasses. There's the original radius plus the 14. Okay, and I arc that back. I now set my pair of compasses to the 14. Okay, and I come in over here to that little center over there, and I can now draw in that little arc that should link up that circle and that circle over there, and I can draw that in nice and dark straight away. All right, that's that one done. Okay, the next one that they ask you to do is to include that 6mm but exclude the this 12 millimeter radius over here. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to take my 12 millimeter radius, sorry, not 12 millimeter, it is a 36 millimeter radius that I need to use, and I'm going to set that to that 36 millimeter radius. 36 on my pair of compasses now. There we go. 36 millimeter radius that I've got set on my pair of compasses. You can see where that is meant to be, so I'm going to come in over here and I'm going to say, all right, I need to link it to this 12 millimeter circle over here, and that is an excluding. So I come over here and I draw an arc, draw a little arc onto that line. I then come back over here and I extend that out and I draw an arc coming around over there. All right. I then set my pair of compasses back to the 36 millimeter radius that I need. Okay, note there's my 36 millimeter, taking it back to the 36. I then say, all right, this one over here is slightly different. I need an arc which is going to be subtracting, okay? I'm going to be subtracting a radius. So there it is. If I went from there to there, that would be 36 millimeters going out, but I need to subtract the 6 millimeter radius over here. So I take that back over there, and I have now subtracted the 6 millimeters from this radius. So here I go, subtracting 6 millimeters. You can see me taking that back. I then arc back over there, and then I say, all right, I need to get my radius back to the 36. There's my 36 radius. Come in over here to where my two arcs intersect, and that was over there. All right, and you should find that it links up perfectly there and links up perfectly there, and I can now draw in that little arc coming around like that. Okay, draw that in nice and dark. Right, once you've got that, my next radius that I need is this arc over here, which says that it is 36, and that's linking up with this point at the top over here. Now I need to find where that is. It says that that's 40 millimeters up from the top over there. So let's just measure off 40 millimeters. Measuring 40 millimeters, use my pair of compasses here. I'm going to go from that center line up 40 millimeters. Center line up 40 millimeters. Let's just draw a construction line coming across over there. Construction line coming across over there. And it says that this part over here is a, top of this thing is, says that that's 19 millimeters square. All right, so that surface over there is 19. So there's one side of the square, there's the other side of the square, and it's 19 millimeters. To get that, I'm going to take my circle stencil and I'm going to quickly draw in two little arcs on either side of that center line, sorry. Two little arcs on either side of that center line, little arc there, and that gives me the exact measurement that I need on either side of that center line to get the 19 millimeters. I can then mark that off nice and easily. There we go. I'm just going to mark that off. You can see that over there, and mark that off over there. All right, so there's my 2 points for that 19. I'm now going to get this arc to join from that point going down to that. Okay, this is an excluding. So if I'm excluding, I must add that 36 radius onto the 12 millimeter radius. And I'm going to do that quickly. Get my 36 millimeter radius. Okay, it is 36. I'm just checking that. Yep, 36 millimeter radius. I'm now going to just extend my line out over there. So I'm just going to take a construction line coming out over here, and I say, all right, take my 36. There's the, if that would be just 36 over there. Add the 12 on there to make it over there. Take that back over there, and I'm going to extend my pair of compasses out. Draw a little arc coming around over there. I then say, I need the 36, note there's my 36 millimeter that I need. I need to go to that point over there and I arc that onto there. Right, once I've got that, I can now take my pair of compasses onto that point over there, and I will have an arc that is able to come all the way around and touch that point. Arcing around, round, and touches that point. Now, I know that probably some of that is going to end up being hidden detail. I'll come back and do that hidden detail after I've just rubbed it out. So draw it in, and then we'll come back and rub out stuff later. Right, the next one that we need is this little 12 millimeter radius over here. And that needs to hook in. It's excluding this surface over here. So what I need is 12 millimeter radius. Let's just do a 12 millimeter radius. Bring in over there. I'm going to place a pair of compasses on that 12 millimeter story over there, and I'm going to do a little arc coming around there. I then say I need that to be linked onto this 34 millimeter circle over here. So I go over here. There is my 34 millimeter circle, and because it's excluding, I must add that 12 on there. All right, I'm going to go to the center over here. I'm going to wind it out. So I've added 12 onto that radius. I come round, and intersect with my little arc that I drew, that 12 millimeter arc. I'm going to set my pair of compasses back to the 12 millimeters. There we go, there's the 12 millimeters. Set that back over here into that center, and that'll link up perfectly over there, coming around over there into that point. Right, once I've got that, I can then set my pair of compasses to this 34 millimeter radius over there, and I can darken in that beautifully, linking that all beautifully over here, going all the way around over here to link up perfectly with that. I can set my pair of compasses to this little circle over here, and that will be a beautiful looking hook drawn out with all the including and excluding of those arcs. Right, okay, once we've got that, my suggestion is that we then start looking at drawing these side plates onto this thing. We've got the centers for them, and all the stuff that's coming through here. Let's start with drawing this little shaft that's coming through here, and you can see that I've got a diameter of, it says 12 millimeter diameter over there. So let's start with that. Just draw a shaft coming through at the center point, which we need to just find out where that is. Let's just find out where that is. Okay, we've got this 19 millimeter story over here. This story over here is, let's just get that. It says that I've got a radius 19. I've got this. I've got, what have we got here? 2 millimeters plus 15 plus another 2 millimeters. That would be 19 millimeters. So that little piece over there is going to be stuck onto this 19 millimeter story going up over here. I know that this measurement that I've got over here is 19 going across there, and I'm going to then bang that in over there. That's 19 millimeters going up, and I can now draw a little construction line coming across over there. Let me find the center of that. Just take my set square, draw a little line at 30 degrees there from that point, and a line at 30 degrees from this point over here. And that will give me the center that I'm needing, and I can then draw a center line going through that point over there. So a nice long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. Come over here, I'm going to do the same thing, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. And I know that I now have my center lines on my front view. Even if I didn't finish the drawing in time, I'd still get some marks for center lines in the correct places. Right, that's done. Let's get my circle stencil and draw that circle, and it says it is a 12 millimeter diameter. Right, let's get that circle stencil and bomb that in over here, getting a 12 millimeter diameter circle on there. Right, let's do that with a nice dark pencil. 12mm diameter, here we go. Let's just square that in there just a little bit more and draw that as fast as you can. Right, that's the that's that outer circle, or that outer circle. I need to draw this little inner circle, and it says that that's a 1mm chamfer that they've got going on there. So I need to take 2mm away from my 12, which would give me a 10mm circle that I need to have drawn in the center of that to get that chamfer story going. So there we go. Let's check that that is centered and draw in that 10mm circle in there. Right, there are the two little circles. Right, once you've got that, we now are going to slot this collar over that story, and that says that it is a 20mm diameter. Right, so I then come over here, get my 20mm diameter onto that. My head keeps on bumping this camera. Big head. Right, there we go. Smash that on there and draw a nice 20mm diameter going around there. Okay, and let's just have a look, see over here. It says that it's got this little hole going through there that is going to have this pin going through. All right, so you can see I've got that pin that's going to drop through there, and that's 24mm. So I need to just come over here, get my 24mm diameter circle and this circle stencil, bomb that in over there, place that over there, get that nicely centered away, and I'm just going to draw a little arc over there, a little arc over there. The pin is a 2mm diameter pin, so I take my 2mm circle stencil, it's very small, and I'm going to draw in some little arcs going on that side and on that side. I then need to draw in some lines coming down to get the pin that's going through this thing. So it comes down, then I have hidden detail coming down over here, all the way down to there. I then slide that across and do the hidden detail coming down over here. Okay. And that is rounded off with a little 2mm thing. I'm just going to freehand that in because it's so small that it's really not going to make any difference. Right, once that's been done, the next thing that we need to look at is drawing this plate over here. And it says that this radius that I've got over here is 16mm. Let's draw that in, 16mm radius. Just go over there, 16mm. Right, 16mm radius coming in over here. And I'm going to be able to draw a line coming all the way around over here. And you'll start seeing that part of that hook that I drew needs to be done in detail. Now that that's in place, I can now start looking at that and going, all right, well, let's do some erasing and get that done. Got a nice little electric eraser here. And I can now just do some erasing slightly over there. There we go. A little bit of erasing over there. And I can now draw in some hidden detail lines coming down here on top of those lines that I have. There we go. There, that little piece of hidden detail in over there. Got a line that's going to come down over here. Hidden detail coming across over here. I know that I've got this part over here would be hidden detail coming down over here, hidden detail coming down over here. Right, over here, and I just want to check myself on that. No, sorry, that's meant to be 16mm. Sorry, that's not hidden detail there. Lost it. Okay, let's just erase some lines over here that I just drew in. It's silly. Right, okay. You'll see over here this little part in here is 16 millimeters, not 19, so I need to draw in a 16 millimeter thing over there. Let's just get that circle stencil, get it on the 16 over here. There we go. Knock that in, get a little arc on that side, little arc on that side, and I can now draw in hidden detail coming down from that point. Dash, 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 down to there, and dash, 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 down to there, and come up over here, draw in some hidden detail coming across over there. Right, once that's in place, I'm going to then draw in this little bit of thread on this hook as well. That's all going to be done in hidden detail, that little M12 part. So that says 14 millimeters going up from there. Let's measure off 14 millimeters. It's 14 millimeters going up over there. Get that nice and accurate from the top of this thing. 14 millimeters over there. And I'm going to draw in a nice little construction line coming across there, that 14 millimeter story. I then take my 12 millimeter radius over diameter over there. I'm just going to mark off a little arc on that side, I'm going to draw some lines in hidden detail coming down. Okay, I'm going to leave a 1 millimeter gap over there, and you'll see why in a tick. And a little 1 millimeter gap over here at the top. I then take my 45-degree set square, and I'm going to draw in a little story over there, and a little story over here. There it is. And draw in hidden detail going across the top of that. And come down over here. Hidden detail going across the top of that. And I have got thread on this, which I need to also put in as hidden detail. Just going to do hidden detail coming down over there, showing the thread, and showing the thread coming down over there. Right, there's all the hidden detail on that hook, which they asked for. I'm going to continue doing this plate over here. It says that I need to measure 96 millimeters to the next center. Right, so let's measure that 96 millimeters going up to the next center. 96 millimeters. 96 millimeters, just using a pair of compasses for that. And that goes from that center going up to there. And I can draw in another center line. Just doing that long dash, short dash story. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. Okay, and come over here and do the same thing. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. As I say, you'll be using those in your front view as well. So if you've got them already, that's a bonus. Right, once I've got that, I need to reset my pair of compasses to that 16 millimeters. So I have got that little arc that I did at 16. Take that up over here. No, can't do it there. Right. Just be very careful. Note, that center is not the center to that arc over there. I need to measure up another 9 millimeters over there. Right. Let's just measure up that 9 millimeters and bang that in over there. 9 millimeters. And I put in another center line going across there. Okay? Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. Once I've got that in place, I can then take my pair of compasses, draw in that arc going around over here. Just a nice dark little arc coming around. Okay, get that beautifully drawn in. Okay, note I did the two arcs. I now join those with lines. Okay, it's much easier to join lines to arcs than arcs to lines. So there we go, draw that in, and that links up perfectly over there then. And again over here, let's just get that and drop that down there, and I've got my side plates there. Right, on that side plate, you'll see that I have got this little hole coming through here, which is going to receive this bolt story with this little square slot. All right, what is the diameter of that? It is a round thing, they say. It should actually have a little diameter symbol on there. just to show that it is a diameter, not just a 24 millimeter. Right, 24 millimeter diameter. I'm going to just draw that in over here. Sorry, this piece of masking tape is causing me a bit of grief. Right, 24 millimeter diameter. Let's find that 24 millimeters. There we go. Smash that in over there. Take that across over there. And I'm going to draw in a line going around like that. Right, there we go, that's that. It then says that it has a square 10 millimeter little slot in there. So I'm going to take my 10 millimeter circle. Okay, find that 10 millimeter circle, smash that in over there, and just draw a little construction line. I'm going to use this orange crayon to draw that 10 millimeter construction line circle in there. Right, once I've got that, it's quite easy to then go ahead and draw a little construction line coming down over there, a little construction line going down over there. And once I've got that, drawing tangents at the bottom of that circle, I can draw in a really nice little square. There we go. There we go, and I know that those sides are going to be exactly 10 millimeters in length, and that makes everybody very happy. All right, there we go. There we go. Right, once you've got that, let's move on to the next step. Okay, once we've got that, what else is going to happen in here? Looking at this thing, we've got that, we've got that. We need to draw in this part over here. It says that I've got a 50 millimeter diameter over there. That's a 25 millimeter radius. That is causing me too much grief. I'm just going to stick this down a little bit better. There we go. Smash that in over there. There we go. That'll work. Okay. Right. Let me get a 25 millimeter radius on my pair of compasses. 25 mil radius. There we go. Bang that in at that point over there, and I need to draw an arc which is going to go, oh no, I hate that when that happens. Right, there we go, coming around over here, and there we go, all the way around to there. I'm going to just do a construction line because we're going to need to take that across into that drawing over there, and I just need to erase that little piece of horrible line that I drew there. Right, okay. Make sure that those lines are nice and dark for that outside thing. I'm just going to darken that in a little bit more, coming around over here. There we go. That should be good. Right, once we've got that in place, I then look over here and it says that I've got a 38 millimeter diameter, so that is 19 millimeters. Take my pair of compasses, set them to 19, and bring that out the way, and I'm going to have this arc coming around over here, a nice dark arc, stops over there. I'm going to continue it around over here because I'm going to need that measurement. Then it's going to be dark coming through there, and then just continue it around so that you've got the information that I can take across onto the other drawing. Right, once that's been done, we are pretty much done with the right view. I need to put in this little plate over here. It says that it is 10 millimeters in height, and it's got that little rail in it, but so 10 millimeters in height from the bottom of this thing. So I need to take this, and I'm going to just draw a construction line coming out from there. I need to measure down 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters down from there. All right, let's just get that. Measuring off 4 millimeters as fast as I can. Bring that in over there. All right, and I'm going to draw a little construction line coming out from that. And then the height of this thing is 10 millimeters in height. So I need to measure up 10 millimeters from that. Measuring up 10 millimeters. That's going over there. All right. And I can draw in a construction line going across over here. I'm going to just draw in that rail. There's a little bit of rail sticking out over here on that side, a little bit of rail sticking out on that side. And over here, a little bit of rail sticking out on that side, a little bit of rail sticking out on that side. Now that rail continues going for ever and a day, so we need to do an interrupted view over there. I'm just going to draw a little line going like that. I come to the center of that. Let's just find the center of that line. Okay, so there, and there. Right, take a little line coming across in the center over here, and I'm going to then take my 45-degree set square, draw a 45-degree line over there. Right, over here, same story. Let's draw a little construction line coming down over there, and I'm going to draw a little 45-degree line over there as well. There we go. Right, once those 45-degree lines are in place, you can then take your pencil and you can draw a 30-degree line going back over there, come to there, and 30 degrees going back over there, come over here, 30 degrees there, and 30 degrees there, and you have those little interrupted view symbols, line going down from there to there, and come over here, and you've got a line coming down from there, a line coming down over there, and you can just erase that little piece of line that I have going over there. There we go. Right. Okay, next little story we need to look at is, let's take ourselves across onto the front view of this thing. Okay, we've got the this bolt that is going through this thing, and we have a center line that's going through the whole center of this thing. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to start drawing from the center of this thing and moving myself out from it. Okay, so we come over here, and we're going to draw a nice center line coming down through all these other center lines that I drew. A nice long dash, short dash, 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 long dash. Okay, there we go. Center lines. You can continue that going down a little bit more even. Long dash, short dash in there. Right, let's start with this hook. I'm going to take a line coming across from where this cutting plane is cutting through that hook. Okay, I haven't drawn the cutting plane in yet. Let me do that so that we can see what I'm talking about. But I'm just going to finish doing these lines over here quickly, taking these lines from there, and let's take that up to there. Right, and I can then carry on. Okay, let's just do that for now. It says that this hook has a the outside profile of it is 19 millimeters. So I need to get that 19 millimeter circle stencil. Let's pop that in over here. 19 millimeter circle stencil. Bang that in over there. Bang that in over there. And I can now start drawing some nice dark lines going all the way up. Let's get my pencil. I've got a nice dark line that's going to come all the way from top of that hook, ding, 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 all the way down to there, and line that up over there, and ding, 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 all the way down to there, and I'm going to draw in a line going across over here, a line going across over there. You see how that's cutting through at that point over there, coming across over here. See how it's cutting through at that point over there, and at the top over there, I'm drawing a line going across over there. Right, once I've got that, I take my set square, 45-degree set square, and I do that hatching immediately. Don't wait until the end. You know what needs to be done on these things. Hatch it immediately if you can, and you'll score yourself a few marks, which will help you gain what you are wanting. Right, take that across there, cutting through that part as well. I think in the actual question they have actually shown you what it looks like when you are cutting through at these 2 points. And you can see the little saw teeth touching the metal. That's what these little scratches are. Right, that's that part done. Okay, the next part is this 16mm shaft going up over there. So let's do that as fast as we can. Let's just get my 16mm shaft story. Let's take that out the way. Get my 16mm circle stencil in place. 13, 14, 15, 16, that is the correct one, yep. And I just draw a little arc on that side, a little arc on that side. And I now need to draw in this construction line coming across from there to there. And I can now draw in the shaft story over here. I'm just going to do it in construction lines because there's going to be a whole lot of stuff that's happening on top of that, I'm sure. There's the 16mm shaft going up there. Okay, after that, right, what goes on top of that 16mm shaft? I've got this piece over here, which is going to slot on top. So I can draw those two lines going up that I just did. Let's draw those in dark straight away. There, a nice dark line coming down there, and a nice dark line coming down over there. Okay, this part over here, I need to get the center of it over there, so let's draw that in. Getting the center, well, I've already got that center line. Remember, I've drawn that center line in over there. So now what do I need to put in there? I need to measure this little gap over here. It says that that's 15mm over there. So I can take my 15mm circle stencil, take that, and that is that one over there, 15mm circle stencil. Just draw a little construction line that side, construction line that side, and I can take some construction lines coming out over there. Construction line there, a construction line there, and that gives me that gap that I need. Let's just check that. It's meant to be a little bit higher, I think. Right, there we go. Okay, once I've got that in place, that goes a little bit over there as well. Sorry, there we go. That gives me the 2mm gap at the top here, or whatever it is. That little gap and that little gap should be exactly the same. Okay, once I've got that in place, this story over here is 28mm going across. That would be 14 on either side. Do I have a 28mm circle stencil? I do. So I'm going to make my life easy with my circle stencil. Take that, draw a little construction line there, little construction line there, and drop that down into the drawing. There we go. Take that, take my, from there, coming down to there, from there, coming down to there, across, from there, coming down to there, from there, coming down to there. Okay, once I've got that in place, I can then draw in that little line over there, that little line over there, over here, and that little line coming across there, that little line coming across there. In fact, I can draw a line going all the way across there. That's not going to be a problem at all. Right, once I've got that, I need to draw in these shafts sticking out over here. It's a 15mm diameter coming out, and that goes out 8mm on either side. So we can measure off that 8mm. Let's just measure 8mm quickly. It's 8mm on my dividers. Bang that in over there. Right, take that to the center. Swing that round over here. Mark off the 8mm on that side. And I can now draw in a line coming down over here. There's the 15 over there. And there's the 15 over there. That's it. That then comes across over here. That then comes across over there. Go over there. Draw that little line coming across. That little line coming across. All right. Now this is a shaft. I don't want to section a shaft, but I'm just going to just draw a little thing going around there and a little thing going around over there, just to show that I've partially sectioned that shaft. I can then take my set square, and I can then just do the hatching on that. Now the hatching I'm going to do in the opposite direction from the one that I did previously. It just helps you to identify the parts more easily. It's quite a small little part that I'm sectioning, so I'm going to gather that sectioning up a little bit more so that it's not quite as widespread. There we go. There. Note that I'm pushing the 0.3 pencil, not dragging it. It's very much quicker to draw these section lines when you do that. There we go, that's that done. Okay, right, the next thing to do is to continue these parts sticking out over here. And it says that I need to go out 15 millimeters with the 45 story over there. Right, so let's get 15 millimeters going over there. 15 millimeters, let's go over here, 15 millimeters over there. Measure that accurately off that side. Take that over there. Get that on the center line, swing that round onto that side, and mark that off over there. Right, there we go. I have my two marks that I need. One over there. That, and one over there, that, right. I have that diameter over here. Remember, we drew that over there, so I don't need to go measuring again. That's going to come out over here. I must just be careful because there's that pin that needs to go through this thing. So I'm just going to draw a construction line there. In fact, let me just draw it in a different color so I don't get confused. There we go. There we go. Come up over here, linking it up with that circle over there, and drawing a construction line going out there and over there. Right, let's just have a look-see over here. It says that I've got these pins, okay, those pins that are going through those parts over there, and on this thing over here it says that I need to measure back 4 millimeters from that part over there. So 4 millimeters going back. Let's just draw that in, 4 millimeters going back. Let's just do that, 4 millimeters, go. 4 millimeters going back from that point over there. Okay, let's just swing that around over here. And I should have that symmetrical on that side as well. Should be 4 millimeters there as well. All right, let's just get those center lines going in here. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. And over here, long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash over there. And I need those pins. You can see there's the top and the bottom of the pin. Let's draw those in quickly. So I've got a line coming from the bottom of the pin over there, from the top of the pin over here, and I need to draw in 2 millimeter diameter pins. So we go over there, get your 2 millimeter diameter over there, get your pencil, and you just draw a little arc on that side, little arc on that side, come across here, draw a little arc on that side of the center line, that side of the center line, and I can now draw in that 1 millimeter gap on either side. There we go, and that's going to come down to that line over there. Right, so we go from there to there, line coming down, there's the pin in place. There we go, and just round that off with a freehand story. It really doesn't matter. With it being so small, I'm not going to go trying to measure it. Right, there's my thing going from there. Take it from that point over there, going all the way down. Take it from there, all the way down. And just freehand that last little piece over there. I'm not going to take circle stencils out, as I say. Right, made that one a little bit too wide there. I'm just going to take that in a little bit, and maybe just erase that line a little bit as well. Let's just do that. You erase stuff, don't stress about it. It's sometimes you need to erase things. Right, there we go. Okay, once you've got that in place, I can now, let's pop these little collars onto that thing, and it says that that's 8 millimeters. So I'm going to put those 8 millimeter collars on there. I have the top and the bottom of the collar coming across from this view over here. So there's the bottom of the collar coming over there. There's the top of the collar coming over there. And I can now draw in 8 millimeters on either side of that. Let's get the 8 millimeter circle stencil. Bang that in over there. Draw in a little arc on that side, little arc on that side, come across here. Get it centered on the center line from there. Let's just redraw that center line. Little arc on that side, little arc on that side. Let's just draw that center line in again so that we have it. Long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash, long dash. Okay, and I can now draw in a nice dark line coming down from there, down to there, and come across over here to there, and draw a nice dark line coming down from there to there. All right, and the same story over here. Draw a nice dark line coming down from there to there, and a nice dark line coming down from there to there. That gives me those nice little collars that are coming through there. That, finish that off over there, that off over there, top over here, finish that off over there, that off over there, that off over there, that off over there. Right, there's my little collars. These little pins should have come through a little bit further, I think. Let's just do that. Right, okay. Once I've done that, I have got this shaft, which we can see over there. That's going to come through over there, and over there, and come up over here. I've got that going through there and there. That continues all the way through to there. I should have done that. All the way through from there to there, from there to there. Right, that's going to continue over there. Right, that also then comes out to that 14. It actually comes out to that 14 over there, which is that. Going out a little bit over there. Comes out a little bit to that line over there. Comes out a little bit over there. Right, I now have a line which is going to come down over there. A line that is going to come down over there. Just that little bit coming out. And I now draw in that 45-degree, it's a 1 millimeter story going over there. Put that across, 1 millimeter over there. That 1 millimeter over there, and a 1 millimeter. If it's 1 millimeter, you'll note I'm not trying to measure it so much. Remember, you have a bit of a tolerance, so 1 millimeter is, I can eyeball that quite easily, I think, and all of you can too. Right, if you look at it, that little circle that I have on the inside over there is lining up with the 1 millimeter mark that I just made over there. So there's the chamfer on that thing. Right, the next thing that I need to do is to draw in these plates over here. Let's just take this across, bottom of the plate coming across there, top of the plate coming across over there. Right. And if I've drawn accurately, I should find that I have a 7 millimeter gap over here. Now, I haven't done that all that accurately. I can see the side and this side is not identical, but I'm just going to carry on. Right, so I'm going to drop a construction line going down there, construction line going down there, right, and draw the same thing over here, construction line going up there, construction line going up over here. Right, that gap should be exact on both sides, so just to work a little bit more accurately than I have. Right, I need to draw in a dark line going across at the bottom over here. There we go. And I just want to check where my mistake was because it's irritating me. So that and that should be the same on either side. This gap over here, I think this thing over here has not been centered properly, so this thing should have moved across a little bit more. It's not a problem. Okay, I'm just going to make these lines at the top over here. So I've got a line that's going to come across at the top there, line that's going to come across at the top there, and a line that's coming across at the bottom over here. There we go. Let's draw that in. Line coming down. Let's just get a brain here before we do anything stupid. I've got a shaft that is going to come through that plate, and that shaft is, it's an M12 over there, so I need to get my 12mm circle stencil onto that story over there. Let's get the 12mm, there we go, pop that up there, and we're going to draw a little arc over there, a little arc over there. Take this across into this drawing, nice little line over there, nice little line over there. Take that across over there, nice little line over there, nice little line over there, and I can then draw in lines coming all the way down. There we go, I'm going to stop there, continuing all the way down, continues over there, line coming down, stops over there, line coming down, all the way down to the bottom over there, right, come across over here, line coming down, stops, line going all the way down to there, continues, stops over there. This one, line coming down, stops over there, line coming down, and stops over there, continues down to there. Right. Okay. Right, those are those lines done. Yeah, I should not have that little line in there. Let's just get rid of that little line in there. I'm just looking at this collar that I've got here. I don't need to have a line coming down over there. That's that done. And I need that line over there to be erased for the collar over there. Unless that shaft is... No, that is correct. Right. Okay, so once I've got that, I can then hatch the collar parts over here. Take my 0.3 pencil. Let's just hatch that as fast as I can. There, very small hatching over here, just to show that that part is hatched. Up to the top over here. This paper's getting in my way. Let's move that out the way. There we go. Hatching those parts as fast as I can. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. Right, move that across over here. Hatch that as fast as I can. There, 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 there. Going up here, there, 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 there. Right, there's that hatching done. I need to do hatching on these bars over here, side bars. There we go, just coming in over here and doing that hatching. Across here, do nicely spaced hatching. There we go. Hatching is so boring, but it does give me a chance to just refresh my brain a bit. So always just look at it as a nonsensical thing that you can just keep on going and just relax your brain for a few moments. So you really don't need to concentrate too hard while you are busy hatching. Right, that's that done. Okay. Right, next step. We need to put in More detail here. Let's just stick that down again so that I can flap it out the way. All right, let's just see what's next over here. I need to place this little bush over the shaft that's going to go through there. Let's draw that shaft in. That's I've got that shaft of 12 millimeters. I've already marked that out. And it says that it's 74 millimeters going out from there. Does it have a washer first? Let's just see. Yes, it's got a washer first, so I need to put that 2 millimeter washer, and that is a 24 millimeter diameter story on there. The head of this thing was also 24, so I've got that dimension. I can then draw in a washer on both sides of this thing. 2 millimeters, that's about there. All right, and on either side there's 2 millimeter gap. Go up to the top there, 2 millimeter gap there, 2 millimeter gap there. Okay, and remember your washers, you don't section washers, so you can draw that in on either side. There we go, 2 millimeter washer on either side, done. Okay, my shaft is going to go from that point going all the way through, 74 millimeters. Let's just measure that off quickly. 74 millimeters. Let's do that, 74. And that's going from that point over there out 74 millimeters over there. All right. Let's do a little construction line over there. Let's check where that 74 is measured to. That 74 goes all the way to the end of this thing, okay? Not to that little line, it's all the way to the end. Right, so I need to draw in, I'm just going to draw in a line which is going 1 millimeter back from that, all right? Line going across, continues, going all the way across to there. Go over here, 1 millimeter back from that line, going over there, continuing over here, all the way across to there. Right, okay, there I did that 1 millimeter gap. The reason being is that I need to put on that little chamfer for the thread. So, and I know it's a 1 millimeter little gap over there, because they said to me, if you look over here, it's a M12 times 1. That means the thread over here is a thread of 1 millimeter, which means that that little line over there is 1 millimeter back. And I can now draw in a line going down there, okay, and a line going down there. Right, once I've got that in place, I just realized I really duffed up there. Reason being is that I need to put on a nut over here. It was really silly. Right, I have got a nut that needs to go on the top of that. My nut is 10 millimeters in height, so I take my 10 millimeter gap over there. I'm going to measure that off over here, 10 millimeters over there. Let's draw in a nice construction line over here. There we go. I now need to find a stencil with nuts and bolts. I'm sure I have. There we go. I've got a really nice stencil. If you've got a stencil, brilliant. If you don't, you're going to have to do a whole lot of PT, which you really should not have to, because you should get yourself a stencil. Right, there's an M12 nut and bolt stencil. Take my pencil, stick it in there, and go, there we go. 5 millimeter. There we go, taking that down there. Take this back around here. There we go. There we go. That's the detail for the top of that nut. And I can now draw in a line going there, line going down over there, line going down to there, and line going down to there. M12 nut done. As I say, if you don't have a stencil, please get yourself one. It's really important. I'm just going to finish off that washer. Okay, note the nut does not get hatched and the washer does not get hatched. Right, I need to draw This part over here, it says that it's a 10 millimeter, or 5 and 5, that's 10 millimeters going out there. Let's just take my dividers, measure off 10 millimeters, take that in over here, measure off 10 millimeters over there, draw in a nice construction line going down over there, and I can then draw in a line going off to there, and a line going off to there, and then I'm going to find the midpoint of that. Construction line going 60 degrees there, construction line going 60 degrees there. That gives me that gap of the 5 millimeters. Let's just draw that up over there. Right, I then come in over here and I draw in my little square story over here. Remember, I'm going to be hatching this thing, so I need to draw that in. And I now draw in a nice dark line going over there. I can draw a little squiggly pattern around that and just draw a line coming down over there. Right, that squiggly pattern, what's that for? It's a part section, so that the guy that's manufacturing this can then see the detail for the little square slot he needs to do. There we go. There we go. There's the part section done. Okay. What else? I need to put in this bush around the around this thing, so I need to measure that off. It says it's 22 millimeters, so I'm going to take my 22 millimeter circle stencil. Let's find that quickly. That is over there. Let's find that. Pop that in over here. Draw a little arc on that side, a little arc on that side, and I now have the 22 millimeters that I need on either side. Draw a little construction line coming down there, a little construction line coming down over there, and then I see that that bush has a diameter of 22 millimeters over there. So I can then just do this, going through that center over there. That over there is going to give me the 22 millimeters that I need, and I now have that exact gap on either side. So there we go, got the bush going in there, and over there, and I can draw in this story over here, which is going to go down to that. It says that that's 38 millimeters. Now I've already got that 38 millimeters. Remember, I drew those little arcs right at the beginning, cutting through there. So I take that across over there. I take that across over there. Right, and that then I can draw a line going down over here. Right, that goes all the way to there. That goes all the way to there. Coming across here. That going all the way down there to there. And going all the way from there to there. Right, I now need to go out. It says 32 millimeters. Right, 32 millimeters. I have a 32 millimeter circle stencil. So I get that lined up on there. Let's get that. 32 millimeters, arc on that side, arc on that side. And I can now draw in from there. I can draw a line going over here, coming down. That's going to go all the way down, isn't it? Yep, that goes all the way down there. It goes all the way down there. And across over here. Draw a line coming down, all the way coming down there, all the way coming down there. Right. This over here. Sorry, that was meant to go all the way down there and there and there. Oh, geez. What am I doing? Sorry, I just need to check this. That's 32. That's meant to go all the way down to, sorry, that's meant to go down to the 50 millimeter thing. There, line coming out over there, and a line coming out at the top over there. Those lines that I was drawing need to come all the way from the top there. Sorry, concentration is dying over here. It's quite a long drawing. Right, here we go, all the way down there. That's from that little blue line at the top there, coming down over here. Right, that's going to come across over here at the bottom. Line going at the top over there. and little lines coming out from here and there, coming down over here, there, and there. Right, and then we can hatch these parts in here. This is going to be hatching done like this. Let's put spacing over here. Right. There's all hatching done on that little wheel story. I need to put hatching in for the bush in the opposite direction. Across here. There we go. That's that. And that's going to go over there. It's all very pretty. Right, that's that done. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is to put in this little tray story over here. I've got most of the information for that over here already. Taking a line coming across from the bottom of that little rail thing. That goes up to the top over here. The blue line coming across over there. It says that that rail has a width of 40, so I measure 20 on either side. Let's just put 20 millimeters on either side of that center line. 20 millimeters there, 20 millimeters there. I can now draw in a line going up over here. 20 millimeters coming. There we go. And there, 10 millimeters over there, 10 millimeters over there. Line rail going across over there. It then says that I've got a 3 millimeter radius that needs to be drawn in over here. So I need to get my 6 millimeter diameter circle. Okay, 6 millimeter diameter circle. Line that up over there, and I'm going to draw in a nice little radius from the center of that around to there. Take that over here, from there, coming around there. Right, take that down over here, that down over here, and I need a line coming just there and there. Right, okay, that's that done. Anything else that I need on this thing? I need to obviously do some hatching on this. Let's get those out the way. Hatching coming across over here. See the spacing of my hatching slightly smaller than that wheel. And that gives it nice appearance. All right, is there anything else that I need to do on here? I've got all of that. I need to draw out this little part over here. There's a whole lot of information that I need to plug in onto this view over here. That says that I've got a 19 millimeter radius coming out there. So let's do that quickly. Get your pair of compasses, set them to 19. There's 19. Smash that in at the center over there. Just going to draw a little story coming around over here. 19 radius coming around over there and over here. All right, I just need to figure out how deep that 19 needs to go. It's the 15 that I've got. And I've got that going over here. So I need to draw in a nice dark line going from there to there. This dark line going from there to there. And that is going from there to there and from there to there. Right, once I've got that, I can then darken in that part. drawing in a line going around like that. Nice dark line there, a nice dark line over there, and that's that part finished off nicely. Right, is there anything else on this thing that I need? That's all good. This little piece over here, that part over there, it says that it's a 28 millimeter. Let's just check that. I think there might be a very small little piece. 28 millimeters. Let's find that. 28 millimeters. Plug that in over there, on there. Let's get that lined up on that. Let's draw a little arc on that side. And a little arc on that side. Drop some construction lines down over here. And yes, there is a small little thing coming down out of there. And a small little thing coming down. No, it's not even gonna. Okay, so there we go. Should have a little gap over there, a little gap over there, sticking out there. Right, anything else? I think that is everything that I need to have done on this drawing, I hope. Looks pretty okay. Right, almost forgot. There is a 2 millimeter washer that needs to be placed over there. 2 millimeter thick washer. You can see there's the 2 mil washer, and it's a 24 millimeter. Now we've already got that washer, you can see over there, so I can take measurements straight off this drawing. There's my 24 millimeter diameter washer. I can pop that in over here, knock that in over there, knock that in over there, and I can then draw in that 2 millimeter gap. Just let me pencil quickly. There it is. Take my set square, pop a little 2 millimeter gap there. There we go, that's that done. Take that to the top there, draw a line there going across there. And I can now take my stencil, my 12 millimeter M12 nut over here. I get the height off here. There's the height. Bang that in over here. There's the top of the nut. Just going to draw a construction line at that point coming across over there. Okay. I then take my M12, let's just find that, there's my M12 nut on the stencil over here, pop that in over there, get my pencil, and I'm going to just draw there, and go around there, and there. Right, that's that done. I can now come in over here, and I can draw in these lines coming down over here, from there to there, there to there, there, there to there. Right, last little bit that I need is this thread. Now you'll see that I've already drawn it in on that side, so I can take it across over here. There we go. There we go. I know that it's an M12, so I can take my circle stencil over here and I pop in a 12 millimeter circle. Let's just get that sorted out. There we go. There's my 12 millimeter circle. Pop that over there. Draw a little arc on that side, little arc on that side. Drop that down over here. From there to there. From there to there. Lining up in those two arcs. I take my 45-degree set square. Take a line going up over there. Take a line going up over there at the 45 degrees. Take a line, nice dark 0.5 line going across there. 5 line going across there. And then I take my 0.3 pencil and I drop the line coming down over there, line coming down over there, showing the thread in the in that threaded part. Right, that is that done, and we can now stop the video. Right, let's just read this question. It says that you need to insert 5 dimensions. They wanted all the center lines. I've done that already. And it says you want a title, a scale, a projection symbol, and I've provided those spaces. There's the title of the drawing, the scale, and the projection symbol. Note the left view is on the left-hand side, front view is that little cone. Right, 5 dimensions, I've put a dimension in there. You can choose any of the dimensions off here and pop it in. 96 over there, I've set an M12 times 1 for the thread over there. I've put that little squared 10 over there. I've put a radius in of 16 over there. So there's my 5 dimensions. I think I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, hang on, there's one more. I need to do one more dimension. I can't count. Right. Okay, I'm going to pop this diameter 28 in onto this story over here. There we go. I'm going to pop that in. Let's just take a line going from over there down, 1 millimeter gap between there and the extension line. From there, down, a 1 millimeter gap between me and the extension line. Take that, take a line going across over here. Take your pencil and you can then draw in your arrowhead there and there. Take your arrowhead there and there. And just draw some construction lines before you write. There and there. Nice little 1 millimeter gap between the writing and the dimension line. Put that diameter symbol in and 28 in the middle of the dimension line. And remember, your 8s are drawn like that. Right, there we go. That is the drawing done.